Today we'll pick up with the story of the Exodus, the great salvific story of the Old Testament, with story number 31, the giving of the law on Sinai. At the beginning of the 3rd month after they left Egypt, the children of Israel entered the wilderness of Sinai. Here Israel camped in front of the mountain. Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain, "Tell the house of Jacob and the children of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now if you will obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be my treasured possession, even though all the earth is mine. You shall be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation for me." Moses called all the elders of the people together and laid before them all these words that the Lord told him. "We will do all that the Lord has spoken," the people answered together. Moses reported this answer back to the Lord. The Lord said, "I will come to you in a thick cloud, so that the people may hear when I speak to you. They will believe you forever. Sanctify them today and tomorrow. Let them wash their clothes so that they are ready 3 days from now. On the 3rd day, I, the Lord, will come down, so all the people can see me on Mount Sinai. Set up boundaries and tell the people to be careful, so that they do not go up to the mountain or even touch its border. Whoever touches the mountain shall certainly be put to death. Only when the ram's horn is sounded a long time shall they come to the mountain." On the 3rd day, in the morning, thunder, lightning, and a thick cloud were on the mountain. An exceedingly loud blast of the trumpet made all the people in the camp tremble. Then Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet with God. They stood at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was completely covered with smoke, because the Lord descended on it in fire. The smoke billowed like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked violently. When the trumpet sounded long and became louder and louder, God called Moses to come to the top of the mountain. Then God said, "I am the Lord your God, who has brought you out of the land of Egypt, where you lived as slaves. You shall have no other gods. Do not make any image to worship that looks like something in heaven or on the earth or something that lives in the waters of the earth. Do not bow down to them or serve them, because I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Work for 6 days, but on the 7th day, the rest day of the Lord your God, do not do any work. Do not let your son, your daughter, your servants, not even your cattle or a stranger visiting you do any work. In 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them. Then he rested on the 7th day. That is why the Lord has blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live a long time on the land that the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, his servants, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Just a few months into their journey from Egypt on the way to the promised land, the land that God had promised Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, later Israel, on their way there they now come to Sinai, and there God tells Moses that he is about to meet with and speak to the people. They are to consecrate themselves, to make themselves ready for the meeting, and to take care. God's holiness is such that it is not to be trifled with. They are not to touch the mountains. They're to prepare themselves. And then when they hear the trumpet blast, they'll know God will be there. God settles on top of the mountain in a great cloud of fire and smoke and thunder. The mountain itself was quaking. It was probably a fairly scary sight and experience. And then finally the voice. The voice comes, I am the Lord your God. And then notice the first thing he reminds them of. I'm the one who saved you. I'm the one who delivered you. It was never about them being obedient and therefore God acted. Nope, God acted. And now because of that, they were his people. And now he tells them how they are to live as he gives them the 10 Commandments there at Sinai, shortly after their escape from Egypt. When the people saw the lightning and the mountain smoking and heard the thunder and the blast of the trumpet, they moved far away from the mountain. Speak with us, they said to Moses, and we will listen. Don't let God speak with us, or we will die. Fear not, Moses said to the people. God is come, so that you fear him and do not sin. The people stayed afar, while Moses went near the thick darkness where God was. The Lord spoke to Moses, and Moses told the people all the words of the Lord, his judgments, and his instructions for feasts. The people all said with one voice, we will do all the things the Lord has told us. The people responded, and they were afraid. When you come into the presence, whatever it may be, of the holy God, it can be a scary thing. His holiness is such that we can't even begin to hope to be in his presence, our sinfulness being so great. And so they tell Moses, you speak to God for us. You be the intermediary. And then they promise, whatever God says, we will do. And I have no doubt that at the moment, most of them probably intended to do so. But the reality will very quickly set in. It's impossible for us to keep God's law holy, perfectly the way he intended. Moses also wrote all the words of the Lord. He got up early in the morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain. He also made 12 pillars, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent young men of the children of Israel to offer burnt offerings of oxen to the Lord. Moses took half the blood and put it in basins. The other half he sprinkled on the altar. Then he read to the people from the book of the covenant. Again they said, all that the Lord has said we will do. We will be obedient. Moses then took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, here is the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you on the basis of what he has said here. Come up to me into the mount, the Lord said to Moses, and I will give you tables of stone, the law and the commandments that I have written, so that you can teach them to the people. Moses went up, taking along Joshua his aide. Moses went up the mountain, and a cloud covered it. The glory of the Lord stayed on Mount Sinai. Moses stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. So God, we sometimes say, first gave his 10 Commandments to Moses at Sinai. Now literally, he spoke them to all the people of Israel first, and later wrote them down on tables or tablets of stone for Moses and for the people. But before the end of this piece of the story, we have recorded this gathering collection of blood, the blood of sacrifice. And this blood is then sprinkled on the people. And Moses talks about how this is the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you. The covenant is a big concept in God's Old Testament people and in his relationship with him. But even in the New Testament, on the night when he was betrayed, Jesus establishes a new covenant involving his body and his blood as he institutes the Holy Supper. And so the Exodus will kind of be a background or a pattern for us of how it is that God saves his people from their earthly bondage to Egypt, and later, through the blood of the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world, Jesus, we will see a revelation of his plan for the salvation of all mankind from our Egypt of sin, death, and the power of the devil. But with this story as a background then, it's quite interesting what happens next, and what happens actually quite quickly. Story number 32, the golden calf. When the people saw that Moses took a long time, 40 days, to return from the mountain, they met with Aaron and said, "Come on, make us gods that can lead us. As for this Moses who brought us out of Egypt, we don't know what happened to him. Have your wives, sons, and daughters take off their gold earrings," Aaron said to them, "and bring them to me." So all the people took off their gold earrings and brought them to Aaron. After heating and shaping the gold, he used a chisel to fashion the golden calf. "This will be your God, Israel," they said, "the God that brought you out of the land of Egypt." When Aaron saw it, he built an altar by it and proclaimed, "Tomorrow we'll have a feast to the Lord." Everyone got up early in the morning, offered burnt offerings and peace offerings, ate, drank, and played. The very first commandment given just a short time before was don't have other gods, don't make graven images, don't worship idols. And now, less than 40 days later, that's exactly what the children of Israel and Aaron did. Now it can be puzzling why Aaron went along with this plan, and it's hard to say with exact certainty, but the people were quick to turn away to other gods. And when it says that they early in the morning they got up, offered peace offerings, ate, drank, and played, we shouldn't think this was good, honest, innocent fun. No, they had gone after other gods, and in worshiping this idol, they were indulging their own sinful ideas and their own sinful notions. We read how it was received up on the mountain. "Go back down," the Lord said to Moses. "Your people, the ones you brought out of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. How quickly they have turned away from doing what I commanded them. They have made a calf to worship. They are making sacrifices to it and saying it brought them out of Egypt. They are a stubborn people. Let me alone so I can take out my anger on them and consume them. Then I will make a great nation of you." The Lord is very displeased with what the people had done, and so quickly it's almost hard for us to even imagine. Yet we will find when we examine our own lives how quickly we often turn and fail to heed God's voice. So God, it appears, is about ready to wipe them all out. He's had it with them. But Moses steps in. Moses intercedes. Moses pleaded with the Lord his God, saying, "Lord, why are you getting so angry with your people, the very ones you brought out of Egypt with such great power and a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians be able to say, 'He brought them out so he could harm them, kill them on the mountains, and wipe them off the face of the earth'? Get rid of your fierce anger and change your mind about doing this evil against your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants, to whom you swore by yourself and promised them, 'I will give you as many descendants as there are stars in heaven. And all this land that I have spoken of I will give to you as your inheritance forever.' Then the Lord repented of the evil that he had intended to do to his people." Repented, not as if God had done anything wrong or anything. We might want to say here, he relented or he did not continue on the path that he was otherwise thinking about doing. Moses intercedes. He becomes the great intercessor for the people. And because of that intercession, and because of another greater one who was to follow, God spares the children of Israel and does not give them what they deserve, but instead deals with them quite graciously. Moses immediately went down the mountain, carrying the 2 tables of the testimony in his hands. The table had God's writing on both sides. When Joshua heard the noise of the people as they approached the camp, he said to Moses, "It sounds like the sound of war in the camp." "It's not the sound of victory or the cry of defeat. It sounds more like singing," Moses replied. When he came near the camp, Moses saw the calf and the dancing. His anger boiled over, and he threw the tables down with his hands and broke them there at the foot of the mountain. Then he took the calf they had made and burned it in the fire, ground it to powder, spread it on the water, and made the children of Israel drink it. Then Moses asked Aaron, "What did they do to you to make you bring such a great sin upon them?" "Don't get so angry," Aaron said. "You know how set they are on doing evil." Then he told Moses what had happened. "I just threw their gold on the fire and out came this calf," he said. When Moses saw that the people were out of control, he stood by the gate of the camp and said, "Who is on the Lord's side? Come to me." All the sons of Levi gathered near him. "This is what the Lord God of Israel says. Every one of you men take your sword and go throughout the camp. Kill your brother, your friend, and your neighbor." The children of Levi did what Moses said. About 3,000 men were killed that day. The next day Moses said to the people, "You have committed a great sin. I am going up to the Lord. Perhaps I can make an atonement for your sin." So Moses returned to the Lord and said, "The people have sinned greatly. Yet forgive their sin. If you won't forgive them, blot me out of the book you have written." "Whoever sinned against me," the Lord said to Moses, "I will blot him out of my book. As for you, go and lead the people to the place I have spoken of with you. An angel will lead you." The Lord punished the people for making the calf. The Lord talked with Moses face to face as a man speaks to his friend. He told Moses, "Chisel out 2 tables of stone like the first ones. I will write on these tables the words that were on the first tables that you broke. In the morning, come up to Mount Sinai all alone." So Moses chiseled 2 tablets of stone like the first ones. Early in the morning he went up Mount Sinai as the Lord had commanded him, carrying in his hands the 2 tables of stone. The Lord descended in the cloud and proclaimed, the Lord God, merciful and gracious, long-suffering and abundant in goodness and truth, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin. Yet he will not clear the guilty. He will punish the children and the children's children to the 3rd and 4th generation for the iniquity of the fathers. Moses bowed his head, worshipped, and said, "O Lord, pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us as your inheritance." Notice Moses' confession here. He doesn't say, "Pardon their sin, O Lord." He says, "Pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us to be your inheritance." See, it's never about God's people's goodness or their obedience that is the basis for their relationship with him. It all harkens back to his promises. He had chosen Abraham and his descendants to be his chosen people, and he would remain faithful to those promises, and he would forgive, not excuse their sins and iniquity, but he would forgive them. And even that was done in light of the far greater sacrifice that was still to come in the person of Jesus Christ. The Lord made a covenant that he would lead the people into the promised land. Moses was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He did not eat bread or drink water. The Lord wrote on the tables the words of the covenant, the 10 Commandments. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tables of testimony in his hands, he did not know that the skin of his face was shining because God had talked with him. When Aaron and all the children of Israel saw Moses, they were afraid to come near him. When Moses called to them, Aaron and all the rulers of the congregation returned to him, and Moses talked with them. He gave them the commandments that the Lord had spoken. All the while Moses was speaking to them, he put a veil on his face. Whenever Moses went before the Lord to speak with him, he took the veil off until he came out, when he put the veil on again, because his face shone so brightly. In the physical presence of God and all his holiness, it even has a physical impact on Moses. And so we're told of his shining face and how, as the intermediary now between God and his people, that he was in a unique position, and he would continue to represent and intercede for the people. But God, even in the face of this great sin, shattering the first commandment just days after first receiving it and promising to obey, that even in the face of that, God shows his grace and his mercy as he forgives the people and remains faithful to his promise to deliver them to the promised land. It's a wonderful story about God and how he is. Not such a wonderful story about the people and how they respond and act. And in that, there's even a lesson for us in our day today. Our standing before God is not because of how good we are. It's because of what and how he is. His goodness, his love, his grace, his mercy, his long-suffering love for a people that he has graciously chosen.